It's not the best choice. It's Spacer's choice.
The Outer Worlds was hands down one of the best games of 2019. Perhaps it was a mistake to release it alongside Modern Warfare, but its sales numbers don't subtract from its quality. It was a unique RPG developed by Obsidian Entertainment and published by Private Division. It's a surprisingly large game, full of freedom of choice at every turn. Quests are rarely linear. You usually have multiple ways to complete them, and different results in doing so. The main appeal for a game with a setting in space would be planetary exploration. The Outer Worlds does not lack in this appeal. It possesses a plentiful number of planets, moons, spaceships, and even an asteroid for the player to explore. Even more important, each of these locations is different from the last, making each additional place that much more special. Seriously, look how many there are! The Halcyon system is vast and diverse, full of individual NPCs that make the worlds feel more real and lively. Each NPC has its own look and personality. There is no copy-paste of models. It's honestly tremendous and really helps in bringing an immersive experience. No two conversations will go the same with the inhabitants of Halcyon. Combining the locations, individualistic NPCs, and freedom of choice gives us wonderfully done factions. There are many factions in this game, and your actions and how you complete quests determine your reputation. In other words, your experience with the different factions. You cannot please everybody. You have to make clear and distinct choices over which factions you befriend and which become your enemy. This mechanic adds a lot of weight and, therefore, tension into each quest line you progress through. You have to think ahead and think carefully. Dialogue isn't pointless, and the more you pick up on, the more educated your choices will be. The amount of lore that goes into this game is amazing as well. There is so much to uncover. It doesn't distract from the main story either. This leads to my main point. You don't need all the detailed lore to follow this game's story. It only amplifies what's already there. The main plot on its own is actually quite simple, and I think that's why it works so well. First off, the locations aren't shoehorned in just to make the game feel bigger. There's a legitimate plot-driven reason to go to each location. The companions you bring along the way also only amplify the story. And the combat. You can complete the game without them, but it's more fun to have them around, especially when they aid in conversation.
This process would be extremely tenuous for one such as yourself.
I'm committed, no matter the cost.
I don't know, Captain.
Quick side note. The companion customization is a gameplay mechanic I just have to praise. It's so extensive that you really can make your team unique. The Behaviors tab is the most praiseworthy. Being able to change the combat aggressiveness on a companion is game-changing and ridiculously underappreciated. Anyway, the main quest line actually has choices that affect both the story as well as the open world itself. Yes, you can shift the dynamic of a location based on your actions in the main plot. Though it has several possible endings, the story remains simple, and the overall basic premise is intact no matter how you play. It's truly a classic adventure story, telling the path of a stranger in a strange land, the underdog taking on the ruling faction. It's been told a million times. It's probably been told that many times because, yet again, it works. You, the protagonist, are awoken from hibernation on your way to the Halcyon colony. You are the only one able to be revived from your ship by Phineas Wells, your mentor, and are dropped in the middle of an unknown world, far from the domain of the Board, the ruling faction. You learn of all the terrible deeds of the Halcyon Board, and, as I would imagine most players do, end up fighting against the Board and single-handedly bring them down. It's a triumphant story that is retold time and again with different characters and settings, yet we always love to hear it. An aspect I noticed when playing was that The game's introduction is quite short. It really gets you going fast. There's not too much exposition either, like games in this genre usually give. It gets straight to the point and only tells you what you absolutely need to hear, and knows you'll slowly find out more as time goes on. Cleverly, the board is not just cartoonishly and simply evil. Throughout the game, you can see the true effects of how the board operates and the twisted things they do. The control and culture the board has over Halcyon is presented from the start. In many of your interactions, the characters will quickly and habitually turn into salesmen, because that's what's been ingrained in them for so long. Everyone is always advertising. The world is supposed to give you a corporate dystopia feeling, and I think it does it perfectly. Not to mention that, with such an uncomplicated plot, there are meaningful themes portrayed dealing with corporatism and monopolies, along with just business ethics as a whole. The writing for this game is astounding. To stay engaged and interested in the story is easy, and interacting with the characters is always entertaining. The Outer Worlds is a prime example of why you don't need an overly complicated storyline to make it fun and exciting. Sometimes, actually, oftentimes, the simplest stories are the most effective. I loved this game. If you haven't played it, I would highly recommend you do. I am very hopeful for the sequel.
Thanks for watching my video. If you enjoy my content, consider following any or all of the actions on the screen. All links are in the description below. I truly appreciate your support. Until next time, hobos.